Earth, the planet we call our home. From deserts to snowy mountains, as surely as the seasons change, through the passage of time, every inch of our world is, as it has always been, teeming with life, with creatures large and small. Join us in celebrating the mighty wilderness in Wild About. On the plains of Africa, in the jungles of Southeast Asia, far away from civilization and all things familiar, deep in the heart of the wilderness, if you put your ear to the ground and you feel an oncoming tremor, hear a distant pounding of earth and mud, chances are something big is approaching. Something of a scale seldom seen in history. A fabled legend. A gentle giant. The biggest beast to walk the earth. True giants, growing to sizes up to 13 feet tall, weighing over 15,000 pounds. Elephants are the biggest creatures on land today, dwarfed only by their long-lost giant ancestors, their cousins, the woolly mammoths, and the dinosaurs that came before them. The last surviving members of the order of Proboscidea. Elephants first evolved from primitive predecessors 60 million years ago in late Paleocene, who, prior to diverging into their own group, lived in the oceans. As large aquatic mammals related to the manatees and dugongs of today, elephant emerging only around the mid-Pliocene period 3 to 4 million years ago. Elephants retained only small signs of their aquatic ancestors in the anatomy of their middle ear and the internal testes of the male. Today, they are divided into two different genus, the African elephant and the Asian elephant, with the Asian elephant, or Elephas elephants, being notably smaller. With smaller ears, a convex or flat back, smoother skin, with patches of depigmentation, and with dorsal bumps on its head. While the African elephant, or Loxodonta elephant, being larger, with bigger ears, concave back, sloping abdomen, rough skin, and a flatter head. The African elephant is also further divided into two species, the forest elephant and the bush elephant, the differences being subtle, with the forest elephant being smaller, closer to the size of an Asian elephant, having straighter, harder, pink-tinted tusks, additional toenails on each foot, and rounded ears. The bush elephant being the more famous, the classic image of the African icon. Elephants can be found in environments as diverse as dry savannas, deserts, marshes, grasslands, lake shores, snowy mountains, and equatorial forests. Asian elephants typically prefer dry thorn scrub forests, while African elephants tend to prefer either open areas or denser tropical forests. Strictly herbivores, all elephants feed on leaves, shoots, grass, bark, twigs, roots, and fruits, using their giant, highly articulated trunks to collect it and bring it to their mouths, consuming up to 300 pounds of food per day and 40 gallons of water. Feeding takes place mostly during the morning and afternoon, with elephants resting when the sun is at its brightest during midday, staying in the shade of large trees, or even dozing off while standing. While longer sleep is at night, for as little as 3 hours a day. Born with sterile intestines, they rely on intestinal bacteria to break down vegetation. Bacteria obtained by wallowing and eating their mother's feces while still young. As with other giant herbivores, elephants evolved to being their size to allow them to survive on vegetation with low nutritional value, relying on their trunk for most of their movement while their body remained stationary, to compensate for their increase in weight, and to give them additional height to easily reach the treetops and distant branches. Their legs grew longer and thicker, while their feet grew shorter and more massive, while their heads developed shorter mandibles in favor of the trunk. Highly flexible and made up exclusively of dense, powerful muscles, the trunk can be used for a multitude of tasks, including breathing, touching, grasping, digging, cleaning themselves and others, use as a snorkel when crossing large bodies of water, as well as giving the elephant a superior sense of smell, up to 4 times that of a bloodhound, and features 1 or 2 finger-like extensions at the tip of the trunk to allow for precision grabbing. As such, it is essential for an elephant's survival, with few surviving long with a damaged, paralyzed, or shortened one. As a result, the elephant's skull is among the most massive ones in the animal kingdom to be able to uphold the additional muscle weight, as well as added thickness of the skull and their massive tusks to allow not only for the digging for water and roots and debarking of trees, but also for head-to-head collisions in combat, partly for self-defense or in the defense of others, partly in ritual combat against other elephants, particularly among mature and dominant males who typically defend their role in the group with significant aggression. The skin of an elephant is also similar to the tough, thick skin of their aquatic relatives, though it is developed to withstand harsh, hot conditions as opposed to the corrosive salt water of the oceans. At its densest point, an elephant's skin may be up to 1 inch thick and is typically grayish in color, though African elephants commonly look darker and more brown due to their constant mud bathing to keep cool and provide protection from the harsh African sun, after which they use their trunks to blow dust onto its body, forming a protective crust when drying with the mud. To regulate temperature, the elephant's outer ear, or peni, is used, filled with numerous thin blood vessels or capillaries. The ear flaps are only covered in the thinnest parts of the elephant's skin, allowing for excess body heat to radiate out into the environment, an effect increased by the elephant's ability to flap their ears. The larger the ear flaps, the better suited the elephant is to a hot environment. When first born, elephant calves typically have concentrations of brown or reddish fur around their head and back, something which mostly disappears as they grow older, except for small bristles around the end of the tail, chin, genitals, and around the eyes and ears, to protect the vulnerable soft tissue from parasites, dust, and dirt. Due to the unusually straight posture and positioning of its legs, the elephant can be left standing for long periods of time without any sense of fatigue, with particularly the front legs capable of constantly sustaining 60% of the elephant's weight, as opposed to most quadrupeds. Because of their weight, elephants only have 2 modes of locomotion: walk and a slightly faster gait that could be called running. Due to the thick cushion pads of fatty tissue in the soles of the elephant's feet, the elephant's fast gait has a spring-like function that allows it to reach relatively high speeds of 11 miles per hour, while appearing to run only with their front legs, as well as generating comparatively little sound. Elephants are also highly capable swimmers, having been recorded to swim for up to 6 hours straight without touching ground or sea bottom. The brain of an elephant is considered small for its relative size, but remains nearly 4 times the size of a human brain, with the temporal lobes believed to process sensory input, so large that they bulge out at the sides. Similarly, an elephant's heart can weigh up to 45 pounds, yet beats only 30 times per minute. Elephants live in a fission-fusion-based society, often traveling in big herds for longer migrations, which are usually seasonal, splitting up into smaller groups or individuals when they've reached their target area. Most elephants travel around 12 miles per day, with some going as far as 10 times that, given their massive needs for vegetation. Highly matriarchal in structure, most groups are formed around an elder female and her female offspring, or cows, the eldest of which next in the line of succession. The family units are then part of a bigger clan of multiple families that group together during dry season migration. Among the families of the clans, 2 or 3 often commingle and form what are known as bond groups, with units in Asia being smaller than their African counterparts. The life of an adult male is very different by contrast, with mature males or bulls commonly staying in the fringes of the family group territory, as well as more frequently associating with outside males in other families, sometimes forced out entirely out of their family group, becoming solitary nomads or forming groups with other nomadic males, only associating with family groups when a fertile cow is present, usually detected by the release of pheromones, picked up by the male's powerful sense of smell. Adult males mature between 15 and 25 years of age, entering from there on a unique periodic state of elevated testosterone levels, up to 60 times the normal levels, leading to a sharp increase in virility, as well as aggressive behavior from the male, a state known as must, and is usually seasonal. It is characterized by a fluid secreted from the temporal gland running down the side of the elephant's face, urinating on itself, swinging its head high back and forth, picking at the ground, and numerous threat displays, even towards females. While the estrus cycles of cows is not seasonally linked, but instead occurring in regular 16-week intervals throughout the year. Mating, however, will typically occur during the peak of the wet season, when most bulls go through must, during which the first attracted bull will engage in mate guarding, where they follow the cow around and defend them from other bulls. Prior to mounting the cow, the bull lays his trunk over the cow's back as a signal, after which the mating begins. It is typically brief and is repeated often until conception occurs. Gestation in elephants is typically very long and only involves single births, or at most twins, with pregnancies known to last around 2 years, and interbirth intervals being up to 5 years. Commonly born during wet season, calves are born around 33 inches in height, weighing around 260 pounds, thanks to the long gestation. Newborn calves are born highly developed, quickly gaining the ability to stand and follow the family herd, though the mother initially remains highly protective of the calf, not letting even immediate family near the calf for the first few days, until the newborn gains additional strength through breastfeeding. Newborns then often become the center of attention within the group. Adults and other young gather around, touching and caressing the newborn with their trunks, encouraging the close-knit family bonds, while the males often don't engage with their calves at all. Occasionally, in some groups, alloparenting takes place, with other, often younger females engaging in breastfeeding and nurturing the calves, until 3 to 6 months of age, at which point weaning starts, though calves often periodically breastfeed until 2 years of age to maintain growth. Young calves are often very playful among themselves, with females running and chasing each other, and male calves often play fighting. Calves are often disciplined through trunk slaps, gentle kicks, and shoves, as well as encouraged by gentle touching of the trunks, feet, or tails, as the main form of communication between elephants is through touching. Individuals of any age often greeting each other by stroking or wrapping their trunks, as well as touching each other's mouths, temporal glands, and genitals to gather chemical information related to the well-being of the other individual, with additional communication occurring through the loud calls produced by the larynx and occasionally modified through the trunk, with the well-known trumpet sound produced when excited or distressed. Infrasonic calls are important for long-distance communication. Calls in the 14 to 35 hertz range are audible to other elephants up to 6 miles away, with the elephant's hearing adapted to hear frequencies as low as 1 hertz. Another form of communication is through seismics, with elephants impacting the ground to produce rhythmic vibrations. The recipients leaning forward to put their weight on their front legs, known as freezing behavior, enabling the transmission of vibrations through the legs and shoulders onto the middle ear through cartilaginous nodes, similar to the acoustic fat found in toothed whales and manatees. Relatively high in intelligence, elephants have exhibited mirror self-recognition, something only seen otherwise in some apes and dolphins, and are indeed capable of using tools with their trunks, such as tree branches as fly swatters. Elephants have also been shown to have excellent memory, keeping track of expansive geography throughout years of constant migration. Elephants have comparatively long lives, often living up to 60 to 70 years, the oldest having been recorded to reach an age of 86. Because of their immense size, elephants have an enormous impact on their surrounding flora and fauna. By uprooting trees and undergrowth, elephants can transform savannas into grasslands in a matter of hours, with their freshly dug water holes becoming attractions for other animals. Thanks to their constant feeding and migration, elephants are also important seeders, with many seeds passing through their digestive system entirely, transported miles from the point of ingestion. Many smaller animals indeed also follow the elephant's migration, such as baboons and other monkeys, as well as dung beetles, feeding on the undigested food found in the elephant's feces. While adults are rendered invulnerable to predation due to their size compared to the largest predators around, calves that find themselves separated from the herd are typically targets for predation, such as lions, spotted hyenas, and wild dogs in Africa, and the tigers of Asia. Though the biggest threat to elephants has long since been human intervention, with African elephants being listed as a vulnerable species, and the Asian elephant severely endangered with a 50% population decline over the last 60 years, due to the shrinking habitats and increasing deforestation. As well as extensive hunting. Their meat, hides, and above all their tusks being the target of hunters. The dentine tissue of the tusk being known as ivory, due to its pristine white color after treatment, often treated as an exotic material formerly used in piano keys, billiard balls, and other luxury items. The word elephant itself coming from the ancient Greek term for ivory, as 1/3 of an elephant's tusk is made out of pulp, with nerves stretching to the very tip. It is effectively impossible to remove an elephant's tusk without significantly injuring and traumatizing them, with the only ivory trade legal today being taken from already dead individuals. But but illegal poaching has remained a major issue in the conservation of Indian and African elephants. With a large portion of the population of India formerly dependent on the ivory trade, and bandits often illegally trading ivory and elephant meat, conducting concentrated raids and killings against large elephant populations, with more being killed for sport, often seen by wealthy hunters as the ultimate game. Since ancient times, elephants have also been thoroughly domesticated and trained by humans, often for the sake of entertainment, frequently seen in circuses and zoos until today, with many detractors criticizing the practice as inhumane and harmful for the animals. Training itself believed to cause significant physical and mental stress on the elephant, with many elephants in captivity having significantly shorter lifespans than their counterparts in the wild. Other elephants used as working animals, particularly in India, bred to haul heavy loads to remote areas, as well as used as vehicles for tourists. They are typically valued for their low maintenance and trainability, as well as the ability to work in difficult tropical environments where machinery and traditional mechanized vehicles would be unable to operate. Historically, elephants have also been used for armed combat, as formidable, often armored assault vehicles and instruments of war for generals and kings. Famously by Hannibal of Carthage, who crossed the Alps with 38 elephants in a vain attempt to conquer Rome, and Ptolemy of Egypt, who enforced his rule over his kingdom with a corps of imported Asian elephants. Death by elephant was even once used by ancient rulers across Southeast Asia as a favored method of execution, asserting dominance over animals and humans alike. Often wild male elephants have proved difficult to control or predict, however, with their periodically aggressive musth behavior, leading to many elephants fiercely attacking humans when provoked. Over 100 people are killed every year by enraged elephants in India alone, with an additional 400 worldwide. Some of the attacks are even believed to be vindictive actions against hunters and villagers known to hunt or mistreat other elephants. Though often seen as a symbol for calmness, patience, and exotic nobility, their exotic qualities are also proving to be their downfall, as they are becoming pushed into oblivion, a fate brought on by a new world with little room for nature and the mighty wilderness. The days of the mighty elephant may be numbered, but until then, they remain true giants of the wild. Far from civilization, deep in the primordial jungles of the world, in the untamed tropical wilderness, in the dark muddy waters, something is lurking, right beneath the surface, patiently waiting, as old as time itself, has survived for millions of years. A creature of neither land nor sea, a primeval hunter, a prehistoric killer. One of the oldest still living orders of reptiles, crocodilians have been the primary semi-aquatic predators of lakes, rivers, and swamps, anywhere warm for millions of years. Relatively slow-moving on land, they were born to swim the dark muddy waters of the tropics, attacking anything that comes near the river's edge. Crocodilians appeared over 80 million years ago during the late Cretaceous period, as the last remaining distant reptile relative of the dinosaurs. having evolved from a common ancestor. Ancient crocodilians even having hunted mighty dinosaur predators, such as the massive Deinosuchus, which grew to be as large as 36 feet, feeding even on tyrannosaurs, compared to the saltwater crocodile of today at a mere 23 feet. Crocodilians today range all tropical climates, even subtropical areas such as southeast United States and around the Yangtze River in China. Though all highly similar in appearance, they can be divided into three families: Crocodilidae, or true crocodiles, distinguished by their V-shaped snout and visible teeth even when the mouth is closed, existing across sub-Saharan Africa, in India, Southeast Asia, Northern Australia, and Mesoamerica. Alligatoridae, including all alligators and caimans, which can be recognized by their U-shaped snout and less visible lower teeth, populating freshwater lakes, rivers, and swamps throughout the Americas and China. And Gavialidae, including the gharial and false gharial, with their distinctive narrow snout ending in a prominent bulge for the nostrils to stay above water, found in Southeast Asia and India. All are carnivorous, most hunting larger mammals, birds, fish, and even humans. They are consequently among the largest reptiles, with even the smallest breed, the dwarf caiman, being 3 feet long. They all have similarly solid builds reminiscent of lizards, significantly elongated flattened snouts, reduced limbs with webbed toes, and laterally compressed tails, all making them specially adapted for fast swimming and high maneuverability in the water, as well as a specialized rib cage, allowing the thorax to collapse during diving, and widened pelvis that allows for the internal organs to be pushed down to accommodate more air in the lungs. The eyes, ears, and nostrils of crocodilians are also located on the top of the head, allowing them to stalk prey with the rest of their body completely submerged. While swimming, crocodilians rely entirely on the side-to-side movement of the muscular, broad tail to propel them through the water, with all of their limbs held close to the body to minimize drag. When stopping or turning, the crocodilian extends one or more of his limbs to adjust direction and speed, typically holding a low cruising speed to minimize exposure to their prey. All crocodilians have two modes of terrestrial locomotion: a low walk, which is very low in energy consumption and comparatively slow, where the arms and legs are slouched and held low as the crocodilian walks, and the more common high walk, which is closer to the gait of mammals than other reptiles, holding the legs underneath the body with the joints straighter, lifting the body higher off the ground, even allowing for short sprints and quick dashes. This is accomplished with swiveling ankle joints, unique among reptiles. They can also use both their hind legs and their tail to be able to leap into the air. For all crocodilians, their primary sense is their sense of smell. Highly developed, they can smell prey from miles away. Crocodilians all have depth hearing, comparable to birds and most mammals, and are able to hear both in air and underwater. Though their eyesight varies considerably between species, all have protective nictitating membranes covering their eyes while submerging, which also contains glands, excreting lubricants to keep eyes consistently clean in the muddy waters, often seen after the crocodilian emerges again as drying tears. The entirety of a crocodilian's body is covered in non-overlapping scales of varying shapes and sizes, known as scutes, covering an already thick, hardened skin covered in a layer of keratin. Throughout their life cycle, new scutes are continuously produced, emerging underneath the old scales, eventually pushing individual scales out from time to time. Many of the scutes are reinforced by bony plates known as osteoderms, forming a protective armor along their back and neck. Each of the scutes contains blood vessels and can absorb or radiate heat to or from the body, as crocodilians are cold-blooded, depending on the surrounding air and water temperature for their internal temperatures, using the sun and water to regulate its body temperature, as well as keeping the mouth open to provide cooling by evaporation. Additionally, some scutes also feature a single pore, known as an integumentary sense organ, which is believed to aid the crocodilian sensing vibrations in water. Scutes along the tail and abdomen are often neatly ordered squares, whereas the scutes on the neck and flanks are commonly loose and softer, allowing for greater movement, in contrast to the scutes along the head, which are commonly fused directly to the skull. The head of a crocodilian, regardless of shape, is always characterized by the long jawline. The skull having powerful muscle attachment points capable of exerting massive pressure on any prey caught in its jaws. Some having the strongest bite forces in the animal kingdom, with the saltwater crocodile's bite measured to have a force of nearly 4,000 pounds, while the gharial and false gharial's thin jaws designed more for quick bites to capture fish, rather than the larger mammalian prey of most other crocodilians. The muscles used for opening the jaw are considerably weaker, with mouths easily held shut by any human or a decent rope. Crocodilian teeth vary considerably in shape and size, and are indicative of their preferred diet, from blunt and dull teeth of varying sizes set in wide snouts, as with the Chinese alligator and the broad-snouted caiman, specializing in eating hard-shelled mollusks, to sharp and needle-like teeth, such as that of the Australian freshwater crocodile, and the gharial, arranged in neat rows of uniform size in narrow snouts, intended to bite into smaller fish, and crocodilians falling in between having more general diets, such as the saltwater crocodile, Nile crocodile, or American alligator, feeding on invertebrates, amphibians, and fish, as well as other reptiles, birds, and larger mammals. All have approximately 80 teeth that are continuously replaced throughout their life cycle, up to 50 times per tooth, with new budding teeth growing next to existing ones, ready to emerge whenever required. Hunting strategies vary as well, though most commonly used is a stalk and ambush technique, where the crocodilian remains mostly submerged, inching closer to its unknowing prey, before suddenly striking, killing their prey, either by drowning or by whiplash by violently shaking it once in the crocodilian's grip. Most are known to be highly opportunistic, eating anything that comes near, living or dead, also using a variety of techniques to lure their prey, such as caimans, who herd fish into shallower waters, using their tail for easy capture. As with most other reptilians, crocodilians are unable to chew their food, instead relying on twisting and tearing motions to rip away flesh of their prey, which is then swallowed whole. Or with animals with thick hides too tough to handle, they will wait until the body becomes putrid and comes apart more easily. The meat is then taken to the two-part stomach, where the initial chamber, a muscular gizzard, grinds the food into a pulp, followed by the highly acidic digestive chamber, capable of breaking down even bits of bone and cartilage. As their digestive system is relatively slow compared to other mammalian predators, crocodilians can often survive much longer on little food, even surviving for months on a single large meal, digesting slowly and living on stored fat between meals, requiring as little as 10% of the amount of food required for a lion of the same weight, thanks to a specialized, highly complex circulatory system, including a heart with 4 chambers and double ventricles. Crocodilians can lower their own heart rate while submerged, using cog-like valves inside the heart to shut off blood flow to the lungs, which have been emptied prior to diving to reduce buoyancy, their heart beating as slow as 1 or 2 beats per minute while underwater, allowing them to stay under for a common period of less than 15 minutes, up to 2 whole hours. Their maximum diving depth is unknown, but crocodilians have been documented to be able to dive at least 66 feet. As they ascend back to the surface, their heart rate begins to increase once they come up for breath. while in hotter climates, some crocodilians wallow in mud to keep cool. Most crocodilians reside in lowland freshwater bodies, but many can easily withstand brackish water or hypersaline lakes. Some even capable of venturing out into ocean water for short periods of time. With the saltwater crocodile prominently able to swim far out to sea and colonize new areas, though as with most crocodiles, it prefers freshwater rivers. Gharials are similarly found in rivers and lakes, spending most of their time submerged, while the American alligator prefers swamps and more turgid riverbeds, often found amidst the thick reeds and along the muddy banks. South American dwarf caimans prefer cooler, fast-flowing streams by contrast, with some species in Venezuela only spreading out over flooded savannas during the rainy season. Most crocodilians are strictly territorial and highly solitary, frequently defending basking spots, nesting sites, nurseries, and feeding areas. Only rarely social, as with the Nile crocodile, occasionally collaborating in a kill or sharing basking sites. Though many crocodile species are silent, most communicate extensively, despite lacking anything like mammalian vocal cords, usually by grunts, roars, and bellows among adults, as well as head slapping, where the crocodilian elevates their head over the water, snaps their jaws shut, and splashes down into the water, which is used by more social species, as well as for courtship purposes. Generally polygynous, crocodilian males attempt to mate with as many females as possible, with dominant males patrolling large areas with several females contained within, with frequent courtship displays among many crocodilians, including the American alligator, often rubbing against each other, circling around, and swimming in complex displays. Mating then usually occurs in the water, the female arching her back, submerging her head and tail, while the male rubs across her neck, mounting her with his hind legs, aligning their tails. Mating lasts up to 15 minutes. The female crocodilian then constructs a simple nest, usually a hole in the ground or a small mound, made up of vegetation, sand, or soil, laying a clutch of anywhere between 10 to 50 eggs, protected by hard shells and incubated for 2 to 3 months before hatching. The temperature of the incubation commonly determines the sex of the hatchlings, with higher temperatures stimulating male hormone development. Communication occurs already within the eggs, as hatchlings near hatching tap their shells to communicate with the other eggs, helping them synchronize their hatching. Unusual for reptiles. Female crocodilians show extensive care of their young, with the mother waiting patiently by the mound until hatching, when the hatchlings start calling for her aid by yelping, at which point she excavates the hatchlings and takes them into her mouth, leading them into the water, after which the hatchlings stay close to their mother for a period of between a few months to 2 years. With caiman hatchlings often taken to shared nurseries or creches, where they are cared for by other females as well. Mortality rates are high among hatchlings, with the nests themselves in danger of floods, overheating, or predation, such as the American alligator's eggs, frequently targeted by the raccoon and black bears, or African crocodile eggs, targeted by baboons, otters, warthogs, mongooses, honey badgers, and spotted hyenas, with the monitor lizard being the largest threat to crocodilian nests across both Africa and Asia. Hatchlings themselves are often targets for predation as well, with many predators lurking near nesting areas, waiting for hatchlings to emerge, such as birds of prey. With some eggs also not developing properly, leading to malformed hatchlings with low chances of survival. Once in the water, hatchlings are also subjected to the threat of predation from fish, snakes, and turtles. Once subadult or adult, mortality rates drop sharply, as most crocodilians are the apex predator of their given environment with few natural predators. The only exceptions being big cats of South America, such as the jaguar, targeting caimans. and elephants and hippos preemptively killing any crocodiles they see in self-defense. Cannibalism and fights to the death have been known to occur among crocodilians of the same species as well. Male rivals occasionally killing each other during mating season. Growth and subsequently sexual maturity is linked to accessibility of food rather than age, with most crocodilians reaching maturity once they grow past a certain size, as all crocodilians also continue to grow their entire lives, with lifespans ranging between 35 to 75 years. The name crocodile is derived from the Greek terms for pebble and worm, believed to be referring to the Nile crocodile's tendency to bask along the pebbled shores at the river's edge. Crocodilians have featured heavily in indigenous mythologies around the world. In ancient Egypt, worshipped as both Ammit, a soul-devouring demon, as well as Sobek, god of fertility and protection, relating the dual roles of ferocious hunter and nurturing mother of the Nile crocodile, with both Aztecs and Mayans associating crocodilians, such as caimans, with both fertility and death. Historical descriptions often attributed crocodilians with erroneous or fantastical properties, such as associating the nictitating fluids with tears shed for the crocodile's victims, and frequent exaggerations of their size, believed to have led to Western stories of dragons. Even the biblical story of Leviathan, a giant reptilian sea beast foreshadowing the end of the world. Today, though, crocodilians have been thoroughly well documented by herpetologists around the world. Many questions about their anatomy remain unanswered and shrouded in superstition and mystery, with ancient folk beliefs holding that alligator meat can prevent diseases and many internal organs can have medicinal properties. Out of 24 now living species, 9 have been known to attack humans, including the saltwater crocodile, Nile crocodile, American alligator, black caiman, the Morlitz crocodile, the mugger crocodile, the American crocodile, the freshwater crocodile, and the gharial, though many attacks have been in defense of their nests or territories. Crocodilians are highly opportunistic and have been known to attack humans as a source of food, with particularly the Nile crocodile believed to be responsible for over 300 deaths yearly, with 2/3 of the attacks being fatal, as the Nile crocodile, after grabbing hold of its prey, drags it down into the water, spinning to rapidly tear off large chunks of flesh from the victim. Likewise, half a dozen people are attacked yearly in the United States by alligators, with increasing human settlements in Florida Everglades putting people in close proximity to their natural habitats, while other crocodile breeds, such as the West African crocodile in Mauritania, appears indifferent even to humans swimming alongside it. As a result, crocodile hunting has long since been popular. Their tough, scaly skin often used for clothing, shoes, and handbags. Though the illegal trade of hunted crocodile skins and meat has gradually been supplanted with that of legally farmed ones, beginning in the 1970s. When eggs were taken from the wild, and alligators and crocodiles have been raised in specifically designed farms, where they are born and bred to reach their maximum size, before being killed for their skin, meat, and internal organs. Today, the biggest threat to crocodilians is the rapid decline of their natural habitats. many marshlands and riverbeds being dried out and made into human settlements, with less and less of their natural tropical habitat viable to sustain them. Due to loss of habitat, as well as extensive fishing of their natural prey, gharials in particular have been reduced to a few hundred individuals remaining. Only intensive conservation efforts have been shown to be effective, such as that of the American alligator. Once highly endangered, now flourishing thanks to a concentrated effort to preserve their natural habitat and eliminating poaching. Though they may already have had their day in the sun, many of their kin long since extinct. There might still be a future ahead of the ancient kings of the river, as they continue to stock waters everywhere, as one of the last remaining predators on Earth. Deep in the heart of the wild, in the snow, in the dark, in the ancient woods, in the cold high mountains, in the deserts and grasslands, a hunter is out there, stalking its prey. No beast so fierce, so admired, so feared. A symbol for the wilderness itself, its descendants an emblem for man's everlasting will to conquer. The word wolf itself refers to a variety of loosely related species of canines, or dog-like predatory mammals, including the Egyptian wolf, more known as the Egyptian jackal, the Ethiopian wolf, also known as the red jackal, the mountain wolf, better known as the dhole or Indian wild dog, the gold wolf or golden jackal with 12 subspecies, the reed wolf or European jackal, the prairie wolf or coyote with 19 subspecies, the red wolf, formerly considered a subspecies of the common wolf, the painted wolf or African wild dog, a distant relation to the others, the maned wolf, closer in relation to foxes, and the species Canis lupus, considered the common or true wolves, including 25 living subspecies, from the dingo to the most infamous Eurasian wolf or gray wolf. To the common dog, bred and domesticated from wolves by early man 30,000 years ago. Wolves have been found to be able to crossbreed significantly, with many interspecies wolf hybrids, like coy wolves and wolf dogs found worldwide. Though this is a relatively rare occurrence due to most wolf breeds forming tight-knit social groups with low tolerance for outsiders. Most wolves are closest in relation to true jackals, such as the side-striped jackal and the black-backed jackal, with the terms coyote and jackal used in place of wolf for smaller members of the genus. The evolution of wolves began 35 million years ago, evolving from primitive caniforms, or dog-like carnivorous mammals. Their family of Canidae then dividing into two tribes, Vulpini being all canines related to foxes, and Canini being all canines related to wolves. In many environments becoming the apex predator, alongside the great cats of the tropics, later diversifying into hundreds of species. including the famed dire wolf, which was the size of a gray wolf with a much heavier build, believed to have been attacking prehistoric humans until a mere 10,000 years ago. Wolves can be found worldwide except Antarctica, in environments as diverse as sand and rock deserts and dry plains, snowy mountains, deep dark woodlands, tropical jungles, grasslands and savannas, ice-covered tundra, and the barren Arctic itself, with the gray wolf having the largest range. Found throughout large portions of Asia, northeastern Europe, northern US, and Canada, with smaller populations present in southwestern USA, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, the Balkans, and the Arabian Peninsula. Wolves vary greatly in size, from the smallest jackal being less than 2 feet in length, the largest being the gray wolf at well over 5 feet. Wolves are primarily ferocious predators, often with higher success rates than any other large predators, with the African wild dog succeeding in hunting 3 times as often as lions, feeding mainly on large ungulates or hooved animals, such as deer, moose and elk, boar, and cattle. Occasionally smaller animals such as rats, cats, and hares, even other wolves and dogs, or even humans. All wolves have long legs and lithe bodies, specifically adapted for hunting and chasing prey at high speeds. Large upright ears to detect the direction of any sound, and elongated snouts for reaching into their prey. Their bodies are covered in a protective, often patterned coat of fur of varying length, which can differ in color between subspecies or even between individuals. Most commonly gray, white, brown, yellow, or red, with black markings, with some, such as the gray wolf, exhibiting color differences between seasonal coats. Wolves in temperate areas often molt, a short period of extensive shedding revealing a new, different coat emerging underneath, to better regulate body temperature. The dense winter coat of gray wolves thick enough to keep the wolf warm and comfortable at temperatures as low as minus 40 degrees Celsius, as they bury their nose between their legs and cover their face with their thick, bushy tail. Additionally, most wolves have thick manes or crests that signify their maturity. Wolves are further distinguished from other canines by their large size, wide frame, and broader snout than that of foxes, with proportionally large teeth, particularly long canine teeth, filling the larger oral cavity, intended to tear through flesh and bone with ease. All wolves have a particularly well-developed sense of smell, able to pick up the scent of their prey from miles away when directly in downwind, tracking them for hours, sometimes days. Particularly susceptible to the scent of blood and bodily excretions, with the old adage of being able to smell the fear of their prey not being far from the truth. Often reacting to subtle changes in perspiration and pheromones to pick out the weaker individuals in larger groups. Wolves also exhibit large outer ears, reflecting their superior sense of hearing. Most wolves can react to ultrasonic frequencies so high they are inaudible to most humans or even other animals, allowing wolves to hear the high-pitched sounds of smaller prey, such as rodents, even from great distance, up to 10 times the maximum distance of human hearing. Also able to hear the heartbeat of other nearby animals. The eyesight of wolves is, however, typically inferior, with red-green color blindness, as they only exhibit 2 color receptors in their eyes, as opposed to the 3 found in humans. They are, however, extraordinarily adept at detecting motion by eyesight and identifying animals from afar, and have a very wide field of vision, with some breeds exceeding 270 degrees of vision, with additionally superior night vision, as many wolves are crepuscular or nocturnal hunters, resting during the day, emerging in late afternoon to hunt, under the cover of darkness. Highly social animals, most wolves also hunt in large or medium-sized groups, known as packs, with only younger males being solitary and nomadic in nature, and only the Egyptian jackal and the maned wolf being consistently solitary regardless of age. Wolf packs commonly consist of closely related individuals. Female wolves are often born and raised within the pack, seldom seen leaving it. The males either born in the pack or adopted later as juveniles to ensure genetic diversity and discourage inbreeding. While this relationship is inversed among African wild dogs, with the males staying in their birth pack and females leaving to find new ones. With some species, like dholes, living in much larger communities, only separating into their own packs when hunting. Most wolves sustain complex social structures based on strict hierarchies of dominance, led by a single alpha male or female, followed by several betas, with African wild dogs having separate hierarchies for male and female. The alpha is in charge of all navigation and migration, as well as peacekeeping within the pack, relying on a wide variety of calls, howls, yelps, and growls for both threat displays and other social interactions to diffuse conflicts. Howling notably used to gather or locate the pack or to call an alarm, the length and tone of the howl indicating the different calls, with the howl of a gray wolf being able to be heard across an area of up to 50 square miles, as well as significant body language, their stance reflecting submission or aggression, with particularly the height of the head and tail indicating the difference, lips contracting or retracting, baring or covering teeth to show different emotions, tongues out as a sign of submission or playfulness or lick intention, their hairs erecting when angry, arching their backs to appear larger, ears erect and forward when aggressive, flattened and turned to the side in fear. All species of wolves use some form of grooming as a social display, strengthening social bonds, particularly present among closely related individuals such as mates and parent-cub relations. Play fighting often occurring, particularly among younger individuals, only in rare cases escalating to violent conflict, as the strict hierarchy limits any challenge of dominance until the alpha is significantly weakened or dead, at which point the next of kin, or the next most dominant beta takes their place. Only in rare cases leading to disputes and power struggles, as even after the death of their leadership, the strict hierarchies are respected and followed. The hunt of wolves is typically divided into 5 stages. Locating the prey can occur through either chance encounters or tracking. Most wolves initializing their hunts by traveling until finding a scent, at which point they stand alert, aiming all their senses towards the source of the scent, alerting others in the pack of the direction of their prey. They then stalk their target, quickening their pace gradually as they approach the source of the scent, heads low, peering intently, approaching quietly as not to alert their prey. In the case of herd animals, the target is separated from the group. Once the encounter occurs and the prey detects the wolves, the prey either chooses to flee or stand their ground, at which point the wolves try to intimidate their prey to flee, as they require the stimulus of a running animal to be able to attack. The rush occurs when the prey first decides to flee. The most critical stage of the hunt, the wolves need to immediately give chase or intercept to prevent their prey outrunning them, as many of their natural targets are often fast-moving mammals. This is then followed by the chase, the wolves attempting to either catch up to the target or drive it until it tires. The chase can go on for miles, with many wolves observed to drive their prey into precipices, ravines, and steep banks to slow their prey down. The kill itself is made by bleeding out their prey, either by biting the soft perineum area at the root, seen with the larger prey of gray wolves, or by a single bite to the throat and neck, seen with most smaller wolves or smaller prey. While African wild dogs earned a reputation for their perceived cruelty to animals, for instead attempting to disembowel their prey while they're still alive. All wolves have also been found to be opportunistic, taking part in any prey already fallen from disease or other predators. Though due to the social pack nature of most wolves, scavenging is often not enough to sustain the population, and is only used as a supplement to active hunting. When eating, the alpha male or female is prioritized, often at the expense of other members in the pack. While among African wild dogs, the betas are the ones to hunt. Bringing home food to the alpha and pups. Females are typically slightly shorter, with thinner necks and smaller shoulders and narrower muzzles. Mating among wolves commonly occurs once or twice a year, though some wolves are fertile throughout the year. Mating is usually preceded by courtship that in some species, such as the golden jackal, takes up to a month, during which time the female is followed by a single or multiple males vying for her attention, sometimes even bringing her food, after which the female chooses her mate, with most wolves forming largely monogamous pairs for the mating season. Some, such as the gray wolf and the coyote, often forming lifelong pairs, with only transient gray wolf males mating with several younger females, a divergent behavior making them known as Casanova wolves. The relationship the alpha has with a mate makes them often officially known as the breeding pair. Other sexually mature individuals are often instead repressed until the death of their alpha, or his or her mate. The mating act itself can take anywhere between a few minutes to an hour, and is repeated for several days or weeks until conception occurs, with pregnancies lasting no more than 2 to 3 months, during which the wolf digs out a sheltered den or reappropriates the den of another animal. Wolf litters vary considerably in size, most having an average of 4 to 6 pups in a single litter, with the maned wolf having as few as 2 to 4 pups, up to 19 pups for African wild dogs, born blind and deaf. Wolf pups are first able to see after a week or 2, able to walk shortly thereafter. They are then nursed for a period of 1 to 4 months, the mother typically staying in the den the entire time. The pup's weight increasing dramatically, often quadrupling during this period, and they already begin play fighting at this time. Gray wolf pups eventually able to accompany their parents on hunts, though the pups are only able to hunt for themselves after nearly a year, instead relying on both their parents to bring home food. Between 1 to 2 years, the wolf reaches maturity and begins to seek both leadership and a mate. Due to their reputation as highly efficient and fearsome hunters, wolves have long been used as symbols for fierceness, warfare, and warrior spirit. Equally revered and feared by Native American tribes, believing the wolf to be a sacred animal and often an omen of things to come. Many Anglo-Saxon kings and warriors also took on the word wolf itself as a prefix or suffix to their name to show their bravery and might, with tales of infamous leaders being raised or adopted by wolves as a sign of their strength, such as the story of Romulus and Remus, the mythical founders of Rome. Once ordered to be killed as infants, they were released into the river Tiber, carried to a she-wolf, nursed them into adulthood. This common identification of warrior man and wolf later gave rise to the concept of lycanthropy, werewolves, being human by day, wolf or wolf men by night, a common myth perpetuated by fantasy literature and filmmaking. Wolves themselves are also an extremely common feature as the antagonist in mythology, folklore, and fairy tales. Becoming a generic archetype known worldwide as a sign of evil, such as the big bad wolf attempting to prey on Little Red Riding Hood, or Fenrir of Norse mythology, a great mythical wolf bound by Odin, destined to grow out of his shackles and consume them, bringing about the apocalypse. Depicted throughout the Bible as a symbol for greed and destruction, reflecting the pastoral culture of biblical Israel, where wolves were the main threat against cattle and sheep. Rarely seen as anything but powerful, even more positive portrayals of wolves emphasize their danger and wildness, being the subject of many adventure novels. Made infamous for a new generation by authors such as Jack London, romanticizing the wild through his depiction of wolf packs and lone wolves. By contrast, human interaction with wolves has historically been that of domestication and conquering the enemy, wolves being the most well-documented animal in history, with the first wolves domesticated by modern man during the Stone Age, used to aid in their hunts, depicted in cave paintings and Stone Age art, running alongside early man, eventually developing into the modern domestic dog, through selective breeding to form the great diversity of modern dog breeds, with modern dogs having over 340 recognized breeds, adapted for every conceivable purpose, from seeing-eye dogs to hunting dogs. Sizes vary considerably from the smallest breed, the Chihuahua, able to fit in a drinking glass, a Great Dane standing up to 44 inches tall, compared to the 30 to 35 inches of the average gray wolf. With many purely aesthetic adaptations, occasionally leading to health concerns with the different breeds. Because of their close kinship, dogs have been known to breed with wolves, giving birth to wolf dogs, an unusual but often highly appreciated pet, as they are highly loyal and quiet. Many wolves today are either endangered or threatened. Many species and subspecies already extinct, such as the Tasmanian wolf, which, despite being entirely unrelated to other wolves, inhabited the same ecological niche in Australia, with the Ethiopian wolf having the smallest surviving population in the wild of mere hundreds of individuals, almost entirely due to human intervention, such as loss of habitat and competition with humans for livestock, as well as extensive hunting, as wolves are often perceived as a threat or menace to common hunting targets such as deer and others. Wolf hides also considered highly valuable for their warmth and smooth texture, particularly among females childbearing or lactating. Their meat also sold for consumption. Illegal poaching remains common when most governments have either banned hunting of certain wolves entirely or enforced strict seasonal hunting regulations to maintain the population. The gray wolf being the most common target, often seen as the ultimate hunting trophy, thanks to their reputation as ferocious and dangerous man-eaters. Despite the fact that the few documented cases of wolves attacking humans have often involved starved or otherwise provoked wolves, with populations steadily decreasing for decades, prompting forced reintroduction of wolves into areas where the population has disappeared entirely. Conservationists worldwide are struggling to keep the wolf alive and well, though for some it may be too late. Until then, they remain out there, in the wild, in the snow-covered mountains and barren tundra, in the deep dark woods of legend, as one of the last wild predators on Earth.